Now, as we know, we're all living through yet another world of albonomics and another day where the front end of the plane gets richer, those that are paid for by the taxpayer like him, they end up getting their biggest pay rises in 10 years, but the reality is that for many people they get left behind, not just on the question of cost of living, but particularly issues to do with, say, employment. Now, Australia does have a very good unemployment rate, which is still below 4%. And the Prime Minister has gone out of his way to pretend that he is the one who is in a small business and hiring the people to work for that small business, because every job that is created is apparently one the Labor Party can take credit for.
In our first 18 months, you've had over 620,000 new jobs created on our watch, more than any first-term government in Australian history.
So, OK, he's not the first politician to do this, but he promised not to be a politician who would do it like everyone else. And yes, the reality is that the headline figure, as I say, still remains under 4%. But if you are a real human being, you don't care about what the overall figure says. You couldn't care less about how the numbers are pushed this way or that way, or owned or otherwise by your average politician. But there was a deeper number that I want to talk about that was inside that steady, nothing to see here number. There was, once you put together the number of people who lose a full-time job or a part-time job, 65,000 people who lost their job in Australia in December. Think about the difficulties that everyone has who has a job in trying to make ends meet. Well, imagine what Christmas was like for 65,000 people who did not have a job, one that they had previously had in the previous month or maybe months earlier than that. Now, to give you an idea of just how many people that is and about how unusual such a spike actually is, let me do it via this illustration. You know, Optus Stadium in Perth holds everything from the cricket to concerts and the upcoming Elimination Chamber from the WWE. Please send tickets to Sky News. Well, that, of course, is a stadium that still wouldn't have enough seats for everyone who lost a job in December. In fact, you'd need an extra 4,000 of them. What about the Adelaide Oval or Marvel Stadium in Melbourne? Well, you would need 12,000 more seats than either of those stadiums to be able to have enough seats for the people who lost their job in 1 month, December alone last year. For Suncorp Stadium in Brisbane, where the State of Origin is held and many a rugby league final, Magic Round and Taylor Swift concerts, well, you'd need another 13,000 seats to fit the full 65,000 people who lost their job in December. But the numbers are even worse than that, because the MCG, the biggest stadium that we have in the country at 100,000 people, would still need another 6,000 seats for all the people who lost a full-time job in December. The numbers again via the Bureau of Statistics today, and the reason you get to the 65,000 number is because you take the full-time number, which has gone down, and then you obviously take away the number that goes up with part-time employment. But I want you to think about that number, that 106,600 people in December got sacked. 106,600 people who had holiday leave, who had sick leave, who had long service leave, who had domestic violence leave, who had all the different benefits that come with a full-time job. 106,000 people who may have been able to take out a home loan, but all of them lost their job. Replaced by what is always the phenomena in December, which is a whole series of part-time or casual jobs, as more people are needed to help take care of those that are wanting to buy things in the retail sector. But this was not a good day for the Australian economy. Yes, the headline number remains under 4%. And people are now saying that because unemployment is ever so slightly starting to increase in terms of the total number of people, then that means that the cycle of high interest rates is going to come to an end, and as soon as interest rates start to fall, we'll go off to an early election. By the way, mark it in your diaries, the earliest opportunity for that will be August of this year. But I don't care about the headline numbers, I care about the human face of these things. And I also care about the politicians who want to, dare I say, have it both ways, each way, these sorts of things. Now, today, the response from the federal government was that the Prime Minister gave a press conference, but he gave the press conference before the numbers came out. So he was able to talk about the headline number, that fingers crossed we'll still have a unemployment rate with a 3 in front of it, And largely the government is tipped off to these sorts of numbers, so they may get a couple of day head start, and it's no different than previous governments to know what's coming. But then there's, of course, Jim Chalmers, the man who will claim credit for everything great in the economy and then strangely go silent when things aren't very good. And because he would have had to have given a press conference after the numbers came out, somebody may well have been able to be smart enough to work out that 65,000 people lost their job overall to the Australian economy, but more importantly, the best part of that 106,000 people losing their jobs was more seats than there is in the MCG, plus 6,000 more people waiting outside. So did we hear from the Treasurer today? Of course not. We just got a tweet. Now, of course, the assumption would be summer holidays, come on, Paul, be kind. But he's already been out and about this summer. When the inflation numbers were the best they've been for a couple of years, guess who was more than willing to jump on TV? None other than the great grim Jim Chalmers. He was out there willing to talk up all of the wins, despite the fact that, as we've shown you before, yes, inflation rate is the lowest it's been in 2 years. However, the reality is that for things like energy, power, all the rest of it, those things are the best part of still 10% or more, double the overall inflation rate. And even the best inflation rate in 2 years is still way above the Reserve Bank saying it has to be somewhere between 2 and 3%. So again, we get an indication about how the spin works around the Australian economy, which is the Prime Minister, well, he gets to make a comment on the 6pm news, but he doesn't get asked about any of the question of the detail that would show the comment he made on the 6pm news is pretty empty. You then have a Treasurer pretending I'm still on holidays, but selectively will break his holidays when either natural disasters like the flooding that took place in Queensland over summer, or the inflation numbers are the ones that he wants to tout. Which reminds me of one of the things that he said when he was applying for the job about the last mob.
When things are going well in the economy, he takes all of the credit. And when times are tough in the economy, he takes none of the responsibility.
Funny thing that, isn't it? We keep the tapes. And we remember what they said and what was the standard before they became the government, and now they are the government. Amazingly, the people that are paid full time to talk about the news, they just don't happen to look into the second page of the press release where you can see 106,000 people full-time lost their job in December. Merry Christmas from the Australian government.